The elder people, the older people, and the older children, like, they talked a lot. When supper was finished, your dishes were washed and everything, you went and sat on the front porch, and maybe 2 or 3 neighbors would come and sit on the front porch with you. The children played in the ground on the outside, just played around. We played marbles, we played jacks, we played hopscotch, stuff like that. And especially in the summertime, and it was time to cool off. And we had so much that we could communicate with, that we knew what was going on and different things that just came about. That's how I learned how to speak French. Mom and Dad and my brother and sister talked a lot, and we ate breakfast together and we ate supper together. A lot of times you were at school or somewhere else for lunch, so you missed that, but the 2 others we did. He said, why didn't you say something? Well, it didn't bother me which I would give it. I said it was okay with me, so I didn't have anything to say. Well, after that, they kind of watched what they said when I was around.
I'm sure.
Because they didn't realize I was listening and I knew what they talked about. But that's how I learned how to speak French. And I took French in high school, and I enjoyed it. I still, here now in this room, for instance, I'll talk to myself in French by myself, and I'm going to answer in French. I never answer it in English. I'll say, donc, comment ça fait comme ça? J'ai pas compris ça. And then I'll answer myself. But it's a good way. And I think, for me, the world has changed, and we've lost our dignity and our respect and our faith. I ate a Thanksgiving dinner several years back at my granddaughter's house. They were all in the back of the house with a big fireplace and a big TV. When 8 o'clock came, I asked them if I could eat, and they said, yes, just take your food and do what you want. There was no tablecloth, nothing was set. You just took what you wanted. I sat at a high stool thing, ate my Thanksgiving dinner by myself, and I never forgot it, and I will not ever forget it. That's just not the way to live. We had time in the old days. We were friendlier than now. There's a question that was asked to me the other day about when our little town was small, what was different with it and now? Very simple. We knew who was in each store, who belonged to that store. Now you don't know who's serving you, you don't know who's owning the business, you don't know anything about them. Why? Why have we lost that? It's not that we're curious about all those things, it's just to know that we're right there for each other.
What can you tell me about your childhood growing up in Mansura?
My childhood was very easy. My brother was 18 years older than me. My sister was 13 years older than me. By the time I was 5 and 8, I was by myself. They had married and gone away. Daddy showed me how to be very observant of everything. Everything. I developed a liking to watch shoes. It's amazing the kind of shoes you see people wear today. You think they're all in tennis shoes. No, they're not all in tennis shoes. One Sunday I was at church and people were going to communion, and I saw this fantastic pair of shoes. And I looked up and it was a friend of mine. So I said, well, I'll call him. Congratulate. I did. He didn't answer the phone. His wife did. She said, why weren't you praying? I said, I had finished already. And she laughed at me, but she told me, I said, I'll tell him. I said, well, thank you very much. It's an interesting thing to be observant. Daddy taught me all about it. One very important time he told me, he and I were in the office on a Saturday afternoon. I was going to Marksville with my mother, and he was going to Bunkie. So I told him at one point that I needed to go to the bathroom, so I did. I went to the bathroom, came back, he was gone, and my wallet was gone. My driver's license was in the wallet. I took a chance, didn't make it. When I got to where the casino is, I got stopped, got a ticket, no license. So when we came back, Mama told me to go tell him, so I went to tell him. She probably knew about that. I went to tell him, he says, well, why didn't you have your license with you? I said, it was in my wallet, and I said, my wallet disappeared. He says, I'll give it to you. So he reached in and he gave it to me. He says, I want to tell you something. I said, what? Do not trust anybody. Do not trust anybody. I said, but you're my daddy. He says, that doesn't make any difference. He says, I stole your wallet. He says, don't trust anybody. Never lost my wallet after that. But he has so many things to observe. And my mother was very calm. She was a good house mother. They were very religious. We lived across the street from the church, and we went to Mass very often. In those days, we had benediction on Saturday afternoon, and things just worked like that. But we were about 6, 7 people. We came up with 43 games. You think children today could tell you that they've played 43 games? No, they don't even go outside the yard. We made mud pies to compete, to see who made the best. I made the best because I stole 2 eggs out of the chicken house and I milked a cow. I had milk and eggs in my mud pies, and they were good. Not that we ate them, but they were pretty and they lasted longer than the others. But the children today are missing out on so much fun. We played croquet, we played hopscotch, we played marbles, we played jacks. I don't even know where the marbles or jacks would be today. Where would you buy that? Probably in some store that handles old stuff. But why are they missing out on so much fun? I played a game, I'm going to name it in French, and I'll translate it for you. Lavée 3, it means the old sow. There was a family that would come from New Orleans, and we played that a lot during the summertime. And this one boy grew up to be the mayor of Alexandria. We played it with the intentions of fun. We had good time. It was great. It's not well enough for you to say that we'll all get together and eat lunch. We ate breakfast together, we ate lunch together, and we ate supper together. We had time to talk. We were doing all things like that. And it's just a big change, that's all.
So do you think that over-involvement in activities outside of the home are messing with our sense of community? Like the sports and the...
Well, it takes them away from home a lot, because there's a lot of different sports that they want to see and different things like that. And it's like I said, they just don't have time for each other and for family. We're not as friendly as we used to be. In church shaped my life. My mom and dad are going to church regular. Sometimes we went during the week, but it was a lot of most of the time on Sundays. And we had benediction we went to. We had a big church. We had 2 wings to the sides, and it was an honor and a privilege. I was the youngest one in my class, and the priest would not let me make my communion with him, so Mama made arrangements and she sent me to Shreveport by myself, and the priest up there, Father Cavajo, instructed me, and I made my first communion. But when I came back, I was scared stiff to go to communion because he hadn't given his communion. So Mama said, don't worry about it. Mom and Daddy went, and I was squeezed in between them. And when Father saw that, he looked at me, and Mama shook her head. You can give her communion. Of course, right after Mass, we had a phone call. He wanted to know how that had happened, so Mama told him. But our church was something that we lived for. It was our get-together place. People got together, people did things, they had different things, they had meetings, and you wondered about it, the Altar Society, the Knights of Columbus, the people who kept up the church. It was something that you went to and you enjoyed because it was all close and we were all together. Sometimes for like Christmas or something like that, there's a whole bunch of them that would get together, and I did it after I got big enough and old enough, and they cleaned the church and decorated it. It was a privilege to do those. Oh, we had some grumpy people who'd come, but still they were there. They'd come. And it's still going on like that. And they had the church fair, which was very, very good. And it was inspiring. It made you feel like you were doing something good for somebody else. But, and then when I was 13, I went to boarding school in Shreveport. Now that was an experience too. When I went over there, I was a spoiled brat. When I came back, I was a man. It made a man of me. It made me do things I had never done before. We had a lot of fun. The bulk of the girls from there were military parents. And when the man would go far away, the wife went with him. One year, one lady called and she wanted her daughter sent back because her husband was going overseas. It was during the war. We made her a sign and hung it in her neck. I'm so-and-so, and I'm going to see my dad. He's going overseas. Please help me to get there. And we told her not to take it off. We put her on the train in Shreveport, and she went to Camp Pendleton in California. 4 days later, the mama called and said she was there. But it was something, in the war, there was so many different things that happening, and you did it, and you never even dreamed that all those girls would have been there. We were 60 in one big dormitory with three bathrooms. The showers were there, but it was something you didn't dream of when you went home. Why would a girl be there and her mom and daddy be somewhere else? But it was because of the war, and we always, I guess you could say, we always tried to do for them more than we did for us. We did a lot of We did a lot of jokes on each other. We'd put black shoe polish on the doorknob. When you put your hand on the door, you'd mess it up. And when you'd go to clean yourself up, your wash rag had a whole bunch of some kind of white cream or something. We'd take the mattress off your bed, string some string on it and put it back on. When you got into bed at night, you crashed down to the bottom. We had a lot of fun. We did a lot of dirty tricks.
So tell me about New Orleans.
Well, after I finished at St. Vincent's in Shreveport, I was going to college. So I went to Ursuline College on State Street in New Orleans. I was miserable from the first week I was there. I didn't like it. I didn't like New Orleans. I was lonesome. I was miserable. So at the end of the year, Sister told me, she said, I think you should call your daddy and tell him to come pick you up. This is not for you. You don't belong here. I said, thank you, Sister, I will. So I called Daddy and I asked him to come pick me up. Well, he says, that's fine, I'll be there tomorrow. I said, okay. I said, Daddy, what am I gonna do in Mansura? Without thinking, the man says, you'll raise chickens. So I started raising chickens. He made me a 5-room chicken house. I had a blast until I got married. Then I lost my chickens for a while, but then we went to a place that had a lot of room. I had chickens there, and I had chickens until maybe 7, 8 years ago. But I love my chickens. My rooster was named Barnabas. I knew exactly where he was. But I just didn't like New Orleans. I still don't like New Orleans. It's too fast. And now it's worse. What's making that noise? In Shreveport, if we had nothing to do on Sunday afternoon, we got a 25-cent piece. We pooled it, 3 or 4 of us, and we'd give it to a bus driver, and he'd drive us around for the afternoon, and that was what we did. We were friendly, and but I would have dreamed of asking a bus driver in New Orleans to ride me all afternoon. I don't know if it's still like that, but man, it was different. Ooh-wee. They picked the 2 smartest people in our class, our French class, to entertain the young man. So it was me and Jane Gooch. We were supposed to be the smartest. He kept telling us where he wanted to go, so we took him everywhere under the sun in Shreveport. We took him to the museum, we took him to church, we took him to the stores, we took him he kept saying this same thing. So we kept spreading our place. So finally we brought him back. And Sister, his aunt, asked how he had enjoyed it. He says, he tells her in French, he said, I didn't go where I wanted to go. So she asked us, she says, where did y'all bring him? So we told her. She says, don't you know where he wanted to go? Nope, we didn't know anything about it. She says, well, I'll tell you where he wanted to go. He wanted to go to the swimming pool in the backyard. Oh, and she looked at us and she says, y'all are the 2 smartest ones? That's a joke. So we had more fun than I don't know. It's, again, it's an old lady talking. He had a funeral home. He embalmed and he made funerals. And he was the agent to buy cotton for a company in New Orleans, Anderson Clayton. And he had about, maybe 12 to 15 agents that went around Avoyelles Parish and sometimes out of Parish, and bought cotton and brought him the samples for him to check and see what he wanted. And the samples would all go in one corner of the office until that afternoon, then you'd pick them up. But I used to play in that stuff, and sure does itch your nose when you play in that cotton. But we had a good childhood, I must say. We went to church on a regular basis. We had our work. We did our job. I went to school. Junior and Jocelyn had already gone to school. I was going to school. It was all, I would say, like it should be. But I find things so different from what it used to be. Maybe I should stop harping on it, but
No.
we are lacking something here at this time in life. Not an individual's life, but the times. We don't have the friendliness, the companionship that we had. The idea that we played together, we did things, we went places together. It's hard now to say, well, we'll go to Alexander and shop. Nobody has time for that anymore. They go when they can, not when a bunch of people can. We've lost. Again, we've lost our dignity, we've got all kind of stuff, and we're just the ones that's missing out on everything, because it's just not here. We can't say, I'll do such a thing and I'll get a whole bunch of people together. It doesn't work that way. It just does not work that way. And I read something the other day that a bishop said, and it made sense. He said that the people today were looking too much into the wrong things, not only to make more money, but the little things. We were looking too much at the little things that were wrong, that we didn't used to put together. And it was, I guess I should stop preaching. I was working for the district attorney and part-time and GAB, that's General Adjustment Bureau. And one of the board of directors at the bank knew me, Mr. Masters, Helm Masters, and he knew that the Union Bank needed some help. But they couldn't get any help because the boss hated women. There were 10 men working there and they needed some help. So Mr. Helm talked him into taking me. Well, people told me, oh, you're not gonna stay there 3 months. He doesn't like women. Was one thing. Well, they didn't realize that I had 2 children to support and raise, and I needed some money. So I stuck it out for 20-something years. When I went there, the men were cold turkey. There was no joking, there was no laughing, nothing. One of the first things I remember telling Mr. Paxton, who did not like women, I was working the back window and he had 2 pair of shoes. One had a hard heel and the other had a soft heel. And he surprised me one day at his soft heel, and I just turned around and I said, I wish you wear your other shoes. What's my shoes got to do with this job? Well, I'll hear when you come in with your hard heel shoes. I don't like those soft ones. From there, I kind of broke the shell there. And then they had never had a Christmas party of any kind. So I talked the wives into sending us some food. And we had a nice little party. And we spent a little bit on some gifts. I remember one fellow bought me a pair of army socks for my gift. And we did our deal, we had jokes, and we did it after work, of course. So they watched us, the three top dogs watched us for a while, and then about the second year, I guess, one of the men came, he says, we'd like to join y'all for your party. Oh, I said, y'all want to join us? What's, you're sick or something? No, we see how y'all have a good time. Well, from that time on, we had a party every Christmas. But I enjoyed my banking business very, very, very much. I worked myself up to some things that I would not have dreamed that a bank did. The people in a certain area far away from the bank would call in, I need to cash a check, I need to have a loan made out for me to borrow some money, I need to put some money in my savings account. It was always something, I need to buy a car, I want some money, make me a loan. They didn't come to the bank. I went to them. Mr. Irwin would fix that up and put them in individual envelopes with their names on it. Well, I'd go around there and I'd talk to them, and I'd eat with some of them, and Mr. Barrar, I'd eat with him and his wife. There was one lady, Ethel, she had the best homemade bread you could ask for, and she knew I liked a fried egg with my bread, so she'd fry me one egg and the bread, and I'd eat lunch with her. It was very, very interesting. It was a different kind of banking. It was, you come and I'll serve you.
Yeah.
And time I went to one of them to do his banking, and it was cold and it was raining, and I knocked on the door, and he came out, and he said, oh, I'm so glad to see you. I'm so glad to see you. I need some help. Where's your wife? Oh, she went to the store. I need help now. Come on. What are we gonna do? My pigs got loose, and I have to round them up to put them in the barn. I chased pigs in the rain. When I went back, I told the boss, I said, I got a promotion coming to me because I got a new title. But like I said before, we helped each other. You think somebody in the bank would help you chase some pigs today? No. They probably don't even know what a pig is. But it was things like that that we did. They don't do anymore.
Yeah.
We were interested. How's your job coming along? Is your wife doing better? How's your boy in college? Is he behaving? Is he learning something? You had a personal touch in their lives, and it's just, like to say, it just ain't like that no more. But we had a good system, real good system. But it's that bank building is empty now, 2-story building, nobody's in it. Well.
And you were the first woman to work there. Did you?
4 years later, the second lady came.
Yeah. So you working there opened the door for other women to work there also.
Those years, I worked in pants. No. I worked in a dress, a skirt and a dress. When she came, the second lady, she wanted to wear pants. I said, well, I'm not going to go ask them. You go ask them if we can wear pants. So she went, and they told her, it's okay. It'll be all right. So we started wearing pants at that time. And it was a godsend because it was so much easier than my dress. I would say two things. The public relations I was in, I really, really enjoyed that. And you met so many people with that. And my second one was the last job I had. I loved it. I could not have asked a better job. I didn't have a boss. I came and went as I wanted. If I wanted to stay, I stayed. If I didn't want to stay, I went home. Want to know what I did?
Yeah.
I was the shredder. It was unreal. That's what I retired from when I came here. I stayed here about 4 months before I retired because that's when they took my car away from me. But I had about 10 or 12 branches that brought that stuff in, and it was lined up. If there was enough, I'd stay. If there was not enough, I'd come back the next day. There would be enough. But there was no responsibility. I had a steady job. I liked my job. And when they had my retirement party, I told them I sure do. I will miss that very, very much. But it was a different kind. The other kind, I had a boss. I had people to report to. I had responsibility. But this, it was that the young man I was talking to you about about purgatory. He was the boss, but he didn't have anything to say to me. He talked, we talked, never said when you come in or anything like that. He knew I'd do the job, but it was really a different kind, and I really enjoyed it.
How are holidays celebrated in your community when you were young?
What?
Holidays.
Oh, well, Halloween is coming up. We had big Halloween things. My children went to a certain neighbor that we had, and when they got there trick or treat, he hosed them down, scared the blue blazes out of them. So that finished that one. Christmas was a big thing. Christmas is a very big thing. Children, even in the Depression, the parents managed to give us something. It wasn't big. Lots of times you just got an apple or a banana or an orange. But you were happy with that because that's all you had. Then if Mama had the sugar and stuff, because during the war you didn't have any sugar. If she managed to save some sugar from what she got, she'd make some cookies or candy or something like that. They used pecans a lot. Oh, there was a lot of pecans. And Easter was a big deal because we knew that was when Jesus had risen, and it was the thing. I would say those are the two biggest, Christmas and Easter. There were other things you celebrated. You celebrated wedding anniversaries sometimes. People who wanted to do that. You celebrated birthdays. There was a lot of birthdays celebrated, and that was always usually. If it was an adult, it was one candle. The cake with one candle. And if it was little, if you were little, they'd try to get enough candles to do it for you. But it was always to be together. You just had a good time together. That's all there was to it. And you'd talk to people and you'd hear what they had to say and you'd listen to them, and it was interesting. I mean, it was real interesting more than now. People with these telephones, computers, you're not interested because you're not saying anything, you're not talking, you're not keeping up a conversation. You're entertaining yourself, but you're sure not entertaining other people. So it's, in French they would say, c'est pas comme il faut. It's not like it's supposed to be. The casino. That's a big, big, big change. There used to be what we called a cattle auction. You sold cattle there at that point. It was lower than what it is now. And at the auction, there was a little bitty restaurant, very small. You could get maybe a hamburger or something like that. But that's where the cattle were sold. We had one there and one in Mansura, further up there. And Garage Supply, which has closed, that was a big thing. But the humdinger is Walmart. Everybody goes to Walmart. But that's some of the big changes I'll see. We have a lot of businesses that have come in. We have businesses that have closed. We had a very good dress shop, two of them. One on this road here named Bernice. She had a wonderful assortment of clothes for women and men, shoes. It was a very, very nice store, but she got old and she had to close it, so she did. We had another dress shop up here in Marksville somewhere, but I don't remember the name of it. It closed. So consequently, right now, if you want a good dress or something, you have to go to LA. You can't, you can buy a lot of stuff at Walmart, but that's not a dressy thing, things like that. And Walmart, I would say, is one of the biggest things, that and the casino. That's two big things that on the flood of 27. Mansura and Marksville are known as the prairie land. Cottonport, Plocherville, Moraville, Bartleville, Bunkie, that's water places. That's lower than we are. So consequently, all those people in that area had to come up on the prairie until the water went down and they had to do this. That was the big flood, 1927. There were a lot of people that lost everything. It was hard to go back because the land was so wet, they could hardly do anything with it. There was lots of people that didn't really know what to do with themselves because they didn't have their work cut out for something else. There was a big area on the Cottonport Road that had hundreds of tents that the Army put up. And people from Bartleville and Moraville and Hamburg lived there. They were used to it. The land was daddy's. They were used to drinking coffee early in the morning. Well, the commissary didn't open till about 8:30, so they couldn't have had coffee there. So what the good fellows did, they took my mama's fence apart and started a fire every morning to make their coffee. So that was one of the things that they were not used to. That business of waiting for coffee till 8 o'clock, that didn't work for them. They just had so many different things that hit them all at once. And it was a sad thing, and they lost a lot of stuff. Then the war came. That took a lot of men, young men, to service. We felt it a lot here, felt it all over with our families. There was an a deal that the Air Force set in that very few people ever knew about. Every town had we reported to Alexandria Air Base. Every town had 2 or 3 people who knew how to count airplanes, what kind, and which was east, south, north, or west. When you heard 1 or 2 or 3 go over, you counted, you looked at what kind it was, best we could see, and you called in to the air base and tell them 3 bombers were going south. They had to do that all the time, and very few people knew it except the ones who were doing it. My brother had been appointed to do it for the one in Mansura, and he helped me to learn some of those things. But the war was so different, so very different. I was in boarding school at the time. Lots of girls were the daughters of a man going overseas. Mamas put them in St. Vincent's for them to stay there until they got back when the husband would leave. We had a lady call the nuns and say that her husband was going overseas and he wanted to see his daughter before he left. His daughter was a 10-year-old girl, beautiful curly hair, natural. We made her a big sign and hung it in her neck. She was about 10. And we told her name is Felicia Peoples. We wrote, I'm Felicia Peoples, I'm going to California, my dad's going overseas, I want to see him. We told her to be very sure not to take that off on the train. I don't think I would trust a 10-year-old today on a train. 4 days later, her mom called and said she'd gotten there and she saw her dad before he left. That was the bulk of our girls at that time. They all had relationships with something like that. It was an entirely different life. We couldn't get shoes. Your shoes were rationed, your sugar was rationed, gasoline was rationed. There was a lot of things you just couldn't get. They were not there, they were not on the shelves at the store. You just didn't have them. Now people passed eggs around to help each other. They all had gardens. They shared whatever they had. It woke a lot of us up. I guess you could put that way. And we realized that we were not the only ones in the world. And something like that makes you wake up and see that it's, like I said, it was not just me. There was a lot of us like me. My daddy didn't go overseas, but I was with those girls. And it made us think. One of the girls kept some relationship with somebody, and when we finished school, her name was Mary Pinkley. When we finished school, we graduated, she took off. She went to Hawaii, and she stayed there until, a long time. She married over there and everything. She came back, I guess in her later days. I don't know if she's still alive or not, but the results of the war, she had heard so much about Hawaii, she wanted to go. She went and she stayed.